from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. And, I was hoping this Monday to see something, but I didn't see it yet. So we're going to have a conversation about what happened over the weekend. A lot of crazy things happening. I want you to join the conversation. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES is the phone number if you want to join our late-night national town hall conversation. Now, it is 7 minutes past the top of the hour. We are live. We are national. But it's important that we talk about exactly what went down over the weekend. Why? Because it's like Twilight Zone, right? It really is like the Twilight Zone here. I imagined that today, Monday, that there would have been so much reaction, so much outrage after the series of events that happened over the weekend. Since Friday, there's been so many big criminal actions going on in the country. And I thought prominent Democrats, Cory Booker, Gavin Newsom, Ilhan Omar, AOC all out crazy, maybe former leader Hakeem Jeffries, minority leader Jeffries, Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, heck, maybe even Barack Obama would be speaking out about this young lady, Irina, that was stabbed in the neck, right, to death on a Charlotte subway on Friday night, stabbed in the throat multiple times by the passenger that was behind her. Now, this, again, I'm scrolling through social media. I see this video. And like many of you who've seen it, I was taken aback. For those of you who haven't seen it, it was brutal. There's this girl that gets on. Again, she's young. If you listen to the show for more than a few minutes, you know that I have kids that are in that age range, 20 and 24. And this girl's 23. She gets on the train. She's wearing her work uniform. My kid, both of them, but have had jobs in fast food and food service. And, you can't help but relate. She gets on there minding her business. She's got earbuds in. She's scrolling on her phone. She sits down. She doesn't even sit next to anybody. She sits down, and there's a camera, on this train. It's filming everything going on in the train. There's like one or two passengers sitting on the left side of the train car. There is two passengers on the left-hand side. She sits in front of a guy wearing like a reddish or orange-colored hoodie. Black guy, dreads. She's a white girl, blonde hair. There's two other people that are kind of out of view, blurred on the video. And shortly after she sits down, this man pulls a pocket knife out of his pocket, unfolds it, exposing the blade, and then just proceeds to go to town, stabbing her in the neck. I mean, no provocation, no anything. The man's clearly deranged. She doesn't survive. The police get there. She is pronounced dead at the scene. He's still there. He walks off the train, and you could hear the audio. In some part of it, I don't know if he says, I stabbed, or somebody got stabbed, but you hear him say, somebody stabbed some girl, or some girl stabbed some girl at the end. He gets off, dripping. His hand is dripping blood from the massacre that he had just committed. He takes off his hoodie, wraps up the knife, and stays in the subway station. I mean, just totally bizarre. I thought I'd seen it all when they set the woman on fire and the guy stayed to watch her burn. There is a type of mentally deranged individual in this country that is on the loose. And I don't know how much of this is preventable because, I mean, nobody expects that to happen. But I do know that the whole thing is not isolated, right? Crimes like this are not isolated incidents. We're seeing more and more of these types of crimes. Crimes by people that are emotionally disturbed, people that are, I'm going to say, criminally insane. We talked about this last week about why we no longer have homes for the criminally insane, right? Mental hospitals, prisons for the mentally deranged. That used to be a thing, and little by little, it's no longer a thing. You've got Democrats like Zoran Mamdani that are out there trying to get rid of more and more prisons. He was bragging over the weekend about how we need to have a reduction in the prison population. Now, I'm not necessarily advocating for a increase in the prison population. I'm not. But I am saying if you catch 10 bad guys and 10 bad guys are doing bad things, you put those 10 bad guys in jail. That's how it kind of works. And, you know, it's brutal to think that we live in a place where this type of thing can happen. And there are people advocating for the wrong side of this. I mean, and there's so many angles here. First angle here is I see an interview with Curtis Sliwa over the weekend. And I actually saw him over the weekend. I'll give you some updates on that. But I think it was Pat Kiernan from New York One News interviewing him. He says, well, surely you can't lock everybody up. There's no space for there's no space for everyone that gets arrested. Like make as if it were a definitive thing that we have no space to house people that are incarcerated. And I'm thinking to myself, if this were an open border situation like we had for the last 4 years, and we had people coming in from other parts of the world by droves, do you think we would be saying we have nowhere to put these people? Right? The Democrats certainly would not have said that. They literally, like guys like Eric Adams, they took 4-star hotels in New York City and turned them into migrant shelters. So trust and believe when there's a will, there's a way. If you need space for people, you will find that space. Because Democrats have never met a tax dollar they didn't love spending. And sadly, now Democrats have never met a criminal that they love to defend. On Friday, we talked about the 19-year-old girl who was murdered by an illegal alien in Maryland. Again, no outrage over that. There's a 14-year-old girl in Florida. Same thing. Illegal alien. At what end? To what end? Meanwhile, you've got the mayor. The mayor of the city in North Carolina, the mayor of Charlotte, making these crazy, crazy statements about compassion, saying that we have to focus on compassion for this man, the man that did the stabbing. And I'm thinking, that man who did the stabbing, whether he was crazy or not, he showed no compassion when he was stabbing that girl. Now, I understand 2 wrongs don't make a right. But I think it's compassionate to hold him accountable. It's compassionate to make sure he doesn't kill anyone else. If this man is schizophrenic, if this man is deranged, which clearly he is, you've got to be to do what he did. To not even be angry and just decide to end someone's life that way, just stabbing them in the neck. Someone who was on the train for, I don't know, she got on the train at 9:45. She was pronounced dead at 10:05. That girl never saw it coming. Horrible. So what are we doing? Obviously, we have a problem. We've seen this problem in D.C. We see this problem in Chicago. How about in Chicago? So President Trump talks about, sending ICE and immigration enforcement officers, to Chicago. And what do I see? People releasing videos now of salt trucks, like the type you see in the winter. Of course, they're all making jokes saying, I didn't see any snow in the forecast. The salt trucks apparently were deployed by the mayor to create traffic jams, roadblocks, if you will, to prevent federal authorities to getting into or slow down to getting into certain neighborhoods. Now, listen, I would imagine that is very illegal. But, you've got to prove it. You've got to go through the whole process. And that, this is politics. So if you come and go, are you kidding me? I got to get my guys through there. Move those trucks. Oh, okay, we'll move the trucks. Let me put the word in. I'm sorry, I didn't know you guys were coming today. My bad. Hey, guys, when you're done with lunch and every other thing you got to do today, just make sure you start moving those trucks real slow. And then they move the trucks. And the bad guys get away. Right? This is how the Democrats use government to their advantage, sadly, to protect and defend. And, I hear the words coming out of my mouth, and I wish I could say, but hold on, Rich. Don't you think you're being a little unfair, painting all Democrats with a broad brush, saying they all love criminals? They all love illegal immigration? Can you find me some that don't? If you do, I'll have them on the show, and I'm pleased to be standing corrected here. I would love to be straightened out on this issue. But sadly, we've got a political party that is so bent on holding on to power that they're willing to see you and your family, your children, your neighbors' children, and every last American be collateral damage just so they can hold on to that political power. And that can't continue. So I'm happy that we've got congressmen like Randy Fine in Florida that are doing things politically, pushing things forward, saying, you know what, we're going to start bills to go after some of this stuff because we can't allow the pro-crime progressives to continue coddling criminals. That's got to stop. Congressman Fine scheduled to be with us straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
I just give my love and hope to the family of the young woman who was stabbed this morning or last night in Charlotte by a madman, a lunatic. Just got up and started. It's right on the tape. Not really watchable because it's so horrible. But just viciously stabbed. She's just sitting there. So they're evil people. We have to be able to handle that. If we don't handle that, we don't have a country.
That's President Trump today reacting and offering condolences to the family of this young woman that was killed. And this is very, very, very disturbing. Her name again, Irina Zarutska. This is a repeat offender, a guy who spent a lot of time in jail, in and out of jail. And again, I believe in everybody getting a second chance, but not a second chance to murder somebody's daughter. I want to bring in our guest, Representative Randy Fine, congressman for the 6th Congressional District in Florida. He's calling on judges to be held accountable for allowing these violent repeat offenders to be let loose. Congressman, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Honored to be here.
So obviously, in light of this this story that's making national headlines, as it should, your bill, your proposal is couldn't be more timely. And you're right. It's not just the progressive pro-crime prosecutors, but you've got judges that play this game as well.
Well, look, if I'm a bartender and I give too many alcoholic drinks to one of the people at the bar, and that person leaves and kills someone because they're drunk, I can get arrested and charged as the bartender. Now, if it's good enough for a bartender, it should be good enough for a judge. And when these judges are letting people out of jail who we know are violent, and you talked about a second chance. This is the 15th chance for this guy in this case. It's because they simply do not believe in the idea of good and evil. To these people, there is no crime. There is no such thing as a bad person. And my view is, if they're going to let these bad guys out and they're going to kill people, they need to be held responsible for doing it. And that's what my bill will do.
Folks, we're on with Congressman Randy Fine from Florida's 6th District. And I think this is a step in the right direction. What type of obstacles are you facing? Is this something that you think is going to be welcomed by both your colleagues and your friends on the other side of the aisle, or do you think you're going to get a little bit of a pushback here?
Well, look, I learned a long time ago when I first got to the Florida legislature, there's no such thing as an easy bill. But no, the Democrats won't be with me. It's the Democrats' reason that we're in this issue. Look, we're in a civilizational struggle right now between people who believe in the idea of good and evil and people who never have absolutes, who always will make excuses for anything. Because no one with a lick of common sense would have let this guy out of jail. If you dig into the story, he wanted to be locked up. He was calling and saying there's something wrong with me. But the liberals said, no. There's no such thing as a bad person. We're the party of moral relativism. So they will fight back. And frankly, some of my colleagues on my side, on our side, may be worried. Oh, no, because maybe they want to be a judge someday, or they know some friends who are judges. No one ever wants to be held accountable for their actions. But the bottom line is Americans are dying. It's enough is enough, because this story is not the only one. You may have heard the story of the judge in New York who let the person out of jail, a child care worker who beat up a 1-year-old kid and said, go out. Here's a few $1,000. This is out of control, and we need to lock all these bad people up, and we need to throw away the key.
Yeah, Congressman, you're right. And it's not just that. There's other cases where judges were actively involved. There was a judge that two judges that got indicted earlier this year. One of them was harboring a gang member from overseas. And it seems like politics has gotten ahead of us. Isn't that crazy?
Well, I think if you think about Trump 1.0, the deep state being kind of the people who worked for the government. Well, in Trump 2.0, the deep state seems to be these judges. And people who just literally, I don't know why you'd want to be a judge if you don't believe in the idea of law and order. But after horror story after horror story after horror story, we have these Soros, wacko, liberal people who simply do not believe in the idea of incarcerating bad people. And my simple thing is this: if you don't want to incarcerate them, that's up to you. We're not going to stop you, but you're going to be responsible for their actions if you let them out.
Yeah, and honestly, the way things have gone since 2020 and 2021, where they've now held police officers personally liable, removing their qualified immunity, perhaps the same thing should happen to judges, where they can be opened for lawsuit in order to maybe help them do their jobs a little bit better. What do you think?
Well, that's exactly what my bill is going to do. Look, the family, now it won't be able to be the case here because it'd be retroactive, but if a judge lets a dangerous person out of jail who should be in jail and may go and kill someone, that person's family would be able to sue the judge. And you know what? A couple of my colleagues said to me, they said, that might have a chilling effect on them being willing to let people out of jail. And you know what I said? Exactly. That's the idea. The most fundamental responsibility of government is to keep us safe. It's the most fundamental responsibility. And we see this across the country with liberals mad that President Trump's trying to stop crime in Washington or now Chicago. I mean, the left has just forgotten. It's their job to keep law and order, and I'm going to fix that.
Folks, we're on with Rep. Randy Fine from Florida's 6th Congressional District. We're coming back to talk about the mechanics of his bill that will hold judges accountable for allowing violent repeat offenders back on the street. Don't go anywhere. We're here with Congressman Randy Fine and me, Rich Valdes.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
I thought it was due to crime, due to time.
Loved ones are left wishing there was more accountability for the people charged in their deaths. Accountability, now at the heart of a new grassroots initiative called Louisville Judges Watch.
Now's the time that we shine a light and have a coordinated effort to elect judges who are ready to help the community feel safer, that criminals are held accountable.
Created in response to public concerns that local judges are sending dangerous offenders back into the community, pointing to the August kidnapping of a mother and her 2 children in Linden. The mother was also stabbed.
When you have a repeat criminal offender at the time who was only sentenced and served a fraction of their original sentencing, that's just not acceptable.
Donna Munoz says the man charged with the 2019 murder of her brother Jose was found not guilty in 2023.
You've got people doing pettier crimes getting life sentences, but you have someone else that just took it upon themselves to give someone else a death sentence, and some of them go right back out to the street.
That's a report, again, from Louisville, but it's no different than what we're seeing in cities all across the country. And the interesting thing that ties them all together, repeat offenders, judges that let them out, and big Democrat cities. This has to stop. There's no outrage coming from the left. I didn't hear any of the usual suspects today that are the first ones to criticize President Trump, but they're the last ones to ever say anything about violent crime. And I'm thrilled that we've got Congressman Randy Fine from Florida with us, because he's got a bill that is, in effect, going to hold the judges accountable if someone that is a repeat offender gets out and then goes and kills someone. And I think it's about time judges have skin in the game. Congressman, welcome back.
Thanks. I'm glad to still be here.
So, I love the idea of what you're doing. And it seems to me, and I know I say this with, a degree of hyperbole as a radio guy, that, Democrats love violent crime. But sadly, it's really true. And I'm wondering, how do you get a bill like this forward if you can't get some Democrat support? Or do you think you actually can?
Well, I don't know that they love violent crime. I think they don't care, and they think it is an acceptable cost for their ideology that says there is no such thing as evil in the world. They fundamentally don't believe in the idea of good and evil. Now, how do we get over the finish line? Look, we can get this through the House. I don't think a lot of Republicans would vote against it. But in the Senate, we'll have to convince them to put it up and dare Democrats to vote no, because I got news for you. I think the vast majority of Americans believe that if a judge lets a murderer out on the street and that murderer kills someone again, that the judge should be held responsible for that. There has to be accountability. Being a judge does not make you beyond reproach, and that is what we have to fix.
Yeah, I agree with that. So talk to us a little bit about the nuts and bolts of what this looks like, what you need to get done to make it happen.
Well, I came up with the idea this weekend just because I was so upset about what happened to the woman in North Carolina. Right. But I think we're working with bill drafting to get it written. But where I think we're going to land the plane is going to say you can sue a judge if you're a victim or the family of a victim, and something bad happens to you, and the judge knew that they were releasing someone who was a risk, that you can personally sue that judge. You have a cause of action to go after them, and that's going to make judges think twice. I mean, if they kill someone, not my problem. Remember, these judges have armed security to keep themselves safe. It's the regular guy who has to worry when one of these lunatics is let loose. I just think judges need to be treated just like the bartender that I talked about in the first segment. You can hold the bartender responsible. If they make a bad decision, judges should be no different.
Folks, we're on with Congressman Randy Fine from Florida. And Congressman, I think you're 100% right. And it's a sad truth that recidivism is a real thing. A lot of times when you see these violent offenses, it's usually not their first rodeo. Whether it was this case over the weekend with Arena, there was another girl named Dakara Thompson from Maryland, 19 years old, beautiful girl, killed by an illegal alien in Maryland. Again, another repeat offender. There was a case a couple of days ago of a sexual assault in Florida. All of this within the last 3 or 4 days. 14-year-old girl who was assaulted by an illegal alien doing delivery work. And it just seems, and again, in that one, the sheriff noted, this is not their first time. This is the third or fourth time they'd been in the system, right? And it blows me away that we're allowing this to happen time and again. and waiting for, it's like almost waiting, like, look, we're going to lock you up if you murder somebody. So either, hurry up and murder them, or B, don't do it. It's a fool's errand to handle it this way, no?
Well, I think the problem is that with these earlier crimes, they don't lock them up for long enough. When you come from the premise of the left that there's no such thing as evil, that you're not responsible for your own actions, that everything is woke and DEI and everything else, when the person commits the first bad act, they should have the hammer come down on them. They should try to be rehabilitated, and you should scare them straight. But when you go, oh, it's not your fault, you had this happen to you or that happened to you, oh, we're going to let you go, you're not bad. What happens with bad behavior, with a bad outcome doesn't happen, is it gets worse. Imagine a kid who's misbehaving. If they don't ever get punished, then not only will continue to engage in that bad behavior, but it will increase. And that's what we're seeing. This guy did bad thing after bad thing after bad thing after bad thing. He was released 14 times. Well, of course he's going to think he can do anything he wants.
Yeah, it's a real sad truth. Congressman Randy Fine, everybody listening is going to want an update on this, so keep us up to speed on it. And for people who want to know what you're working on, how do they find you? How do they follow you?
The easiest way to do it, and we will be updating on this bill, is to follow me at @RepFine on any of the social media platforms. It's the same handle on them all. @Rep, like representative, Fine.
@RepFine on all the social media. Congressman, I want to thank you for being here. You're a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. Keep up the great work, and Godspeed to you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And amigos, your thoughts, your calls, your reactions, and so much more when we return.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDES. That's Valdes with an S. Now, 833-4VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDES. That's Valdes with an S.
Of this Bowie home where investigators say Dakara Thompson was killed. I never thought a family member would do something like that. We are distraught. The cousin of Hugo Hernandez Mendez agreed to speak only if her face was not shown. We will call her Maria. She says her cousin, an immigrant from Guatemala, lived with her family and other relatives, but recently she rarely saw him and his behavior changed.
It's very unfortunate that we have to live in a society where predators are always lurking.
Neighbors are still in shock.
I just felt that there was a need for me to come out and extend my condolences to the family.
Oh my goodness, it's connected.
Tracy Franklin says Maryland State Troopers visited her home as part of the investigation.
I am very glad to see that coverage is happening and awareness of a young African-American woman missing, because a lot of times that doesn't happen.
Maria says her husband was also taken by investigators for questioning yesterday but was released. Federal immigration agents were back at their home, this time for her husband, who is an undocumented immigrant from Mexico. They did not have an order for my husband or a warrant for me. They simply handcuffed him and took him. Maria insists her husband has nothing to do with the alleged crime. Her young children standing right next to her. She says her husband was taken despite his full cooperation in the criminal investigation. She has this message for Dakara's parents. I am a mother. I understand her mother and father. I have children. I hope God gives them strength through this difficult situation. I really lament that it was a family member of mine, my cousin. I am really sorry.
So that is a report on Dakara Thompson. Of course, that's the 19-year-old girl that was killed by this man, Hugo Hernandez Mendez. He's been charged in the alleged killing of this woman, Dakara Johnson, again, teenager, 19 years old. And this is brutal. I mean, I have to say, this is absolute brutality. I really do. I really hate these types of things. But this guy, Hernandez, today, he's been charged in her murder. Good. I hope if he's the guy, I hope they lock him up and throw away the key. It seems like he's the guy. He's being held without bond. This other man that they were talking about in the report is the guy's cousin. That they went there, in their investigation, they found him. He cooperated, and you heard it from his wife through a translator that they arrested him too. She says he has nothing to do with it. I believe her. I think that's like many things. It's wrong place, wrong time type of thing, And that happens. I mean, we saw it today as well with the big ICE raid, right? ICE raid on the Hyundai facility in Georgia. There are all sorts of political fallout from that as well, where they're saying, oh, my gosh, these people were here on H-3 visas, 300 people on an H-3 visa out of the 400 that were detained. And guess what? After they're detained, they're let go. Now, look, I don't like being detained by the police. I get that. I totally get that. I'd be mad, too. I don't like getting pulled over. The few times I've been pulled over in life, I'm always mad. I'm always like, who do I send the bill to for my time? I want to be as polite as I can, but sometimes, this is an inconvenient reality in life. We all have to deal with it sometimes. But the media was in an uproar. Stephanie Rule from MSNBC, or whatever it's called now, MS Now, she was saying that this is, flying in the face of everything Donald Trump's trying to achieve, because while he's coaxing companies like Hyundai to build and invest in America and bring their workers here, they did on a visa, and then he goes ahead and sends an ICE raid. To that, I say it's not that simple, right? There were people there that were detained and then arrested and then deported. However, the others that were detained, they got them sorted out, and that's it. They were let go. But the left loves to make a big deal of this. So anyway, I'm going to get your thoughts on everything that's going on with all of this. I mean, there's just too many killings. You got a 14-year-old that was raped, a 19-year-old that was killed, a 23-year-old that was killed. Too much killing. This is a tough situation. Anyway, I want to get to your calls, your thoughts, your opinions. Let's go to line, let's see here. Line 4, Eduardo is in Tampa, Florida, streaming the show tonight, richvaldes.com. Go right ahead.
Good evening, Rich. Yeah, and thank you for that interview with Randy Fine. And before I get to my point, anybody seen Chris Van Hollen?
Yeah, silence again. Silence
yeah,
from
it'd be
Van
interesting
Hollen.
to get a comment about this since he's Mr. Margarita boy with Abrego Garcia.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything from his buddy Wes Moore either.
Well, there was something small about him. He got back in time from his tan in Italy on George Clooney's boat.
Yeah, it's really sad.
But, all these crimes. Even I'm glad Randy Fine mentioned the 1 year that was punched by the daycare, because that was on my memo pad too.
Mm-hmm.
My little groupings that you guys were talking about. It's a shame too. But getting back to this crime, so especially after George Floyd, obviously this thing escalated. But all these shovings into the train, the carjacking, going into Walgreens to steal merchandise. I mean, it's very obvious who is doing this crime, but the media won't point that out because that seems racist. So,
well, I don't know if it's totally a race-driven thing, but I do know it's a repeat offender type of thing, and that to me is the bigger issue. That when you have people that are repeat offenders, it's because it's not being the law is not being enforced the right way. If somebody commits a minimal crime and then they get arrested and they're let go immediately, they're going to go and do it again, and they're going to do it again, and they're going to escalate each time until they face a stiff penalty. I mean, this guy, there was no stopping him. That guy had done a 6-year bid. If you do 6 years in jail and you could still quite calmly sit there, open up a pocket knife and stab someone in the neck, this is a criminally insane person that just can't be a part of society. And that's got nothing to do with his race. That just has to do with the guy is nuts, in my opinion. Eduardo, thank you for your call, brother. I appreciate it. I want to continue. Let's go to, let me see here. Edgar. Edgar, where are you calling us from, Edgar? Is Edgar there?
I'm calling from Wiggins.
Are you Edgar?
I'm calling from Wiggins. Yes.
From where?
Wiggins, Mississippi.
All right. What do you want to say tonight?
I really don't know, other than
All right, let's put Edgar on hold. Let's go to line number 3 and check in with, I guess, Steve calling us from Atlanta. Is that Steve? Go right ahead, sir.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Convention of States. I just want to put that seed in your head. Convention of States. Now, with regard to the that law that that last congressman suggested that we do, think about it. It would be the exact same thing as saying that the gun manufacturer would be held liable if a kook got a hold of one of their guns.
Well, not really. I think it would be the same as what they've done to police in New York City. For example, after Eric Gardner and after George Floyd, they effectively passed city council resolutions that said New York City police officers that cause harm to someone are now liable personally, right? So it's no longer I'm going to sue the police department for what this police officer did. It's I'm going to sue Steve from Atlanta. And I'm going to take away that house he owns that he helps people out in. And that is unfair, in my opinion, because everyone else in the government enjoys the protection of I was doing that as a part of my job and that type of immunity from the president on down. So if this is what's needed, in my opinion, to get judges to adjudicate correctly, right? And because that's really the problem here. You've got judges that are saying, you know what, I'm going to go extra lenient on this. And they're going lenient on people they should not be lenient on. And the proof is in the pudding. The repeat offenders are coming back and they're murdering people. So when that happens, I think it's fair to say, hey, look, we're going to hold you personally responsible without your qualified immunity. Now, look, I think he's going to have a lot of roadblocks. It's not going to be easy to pass a bill like that. But it's not the same as holding the gun manufacturer responsible because when you buy a gun, you're expected to do the right thing. And if you do the right thing, you won't have a problem. Same thing with the judge. Right? If the judge is heavy-handed in their sentencing, saying, you know what, you punched a woman in the face, you put a gun in her mouth, and you stole her money, I'm not giving you, psychiatric eval and house arrest for 30 days, and then, you're free to do it again. No, this time you're getting the 5 flat, and that's how it's going to be. And guess what? Word gets out. People start realizing criminals know the law really well. And they know exactly what they can get in trouble for. And when they start realizing these sentences are a little stiffer and that these rules that have rolled back in recent years are no longer soft on crime like they were, I think we'll see the result of that. Steve, thanks for the call, my brother. I appreciate it. Your calls and more coming up straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, to the calls we go. Let's go to Christopher calling us from Sterling, Virginia, WMAL. Chris, go right ahead.
Yes, Rich. I was wondering with a lot of these illegal immigrants coming to the country, murdering people, and this example in Charlotte, who was not an illegal immigrant, but nevertheless killed this woman. Are these people going to be charged with hate crimes? Because when you look at the Justice Department, they're always, if there's a hate crime, it's always a white being charged with a hate crime. You never see any people of color being charged with killing a white person.
Right. Well, again, I don't know the circumstances of this case being a hate crime. Obviously, I don't think that guy knew this woman from a hole in the wall. I think the only thing he knew is that she was in front of him. I mean, it's a bizarre video to watch. I mean, brutal. I don't wish that on anyone. But he didn't look angry. He just looked somehow bothered, like, oh my gosh, here she is. It's time to go. And he didn't care that there were witnesses next to him. He didn't run out of that train. This man is a lunatic. So I don't know that this one's going to qualify as a hate crime. I doubt it will. But I'm curious to see where it goes. Christopher and Sterling, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. WMAL in the building. Folks on hold, continue holding. We're coming right back in about 5 or 6 minutes. Hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night. And God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdes.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. Welcome to the Monday night edition of the program. We are live and national, 7 minutes past the top of the hour. It's a blessing to be on these airwaves with all of you. If you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, give me a holler. Here's the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdes. On May 5th, 1978, at Brooklyn Jewish Hospital, a little fat Puerto Rican kid was born. His name, Rich Valdes. And I was born in Brooklyn. I lived there till I was about 12 years old and moved to the other side of the Hudson River, Hudson County, New Jersey. I like to call it the sixth borough, and because everybody there is like a New York transplant. And I've had a good life in New Jersey. I've had a good life in New York. I've had a good life in America. It's the only place I've ever lived. And I love this country. I love New York City, where I was born, where I went to public school, 197 in Brooklyn, where I went to junior high school, which we called intermediate school, IS 240 Andreas Huddy on Nostrand Avenue. And it's changed a lot, right? I mean, during that time that I moved in 1989, 1990, crime was probably at its worst in New York City. My parents made their way to New Jersey. I was in tow. And here we are approaching those 1990s level type of days with respect to crime and the quality of life in New York City, where people are leaving. And it doesn't take much to take a look and see what's going on and say, hey, take a look at this. People are fleeing. Everybody's going to Florida. People are going to Tennessee. People are going to the Carolinas, mainly to the tax-free states like Texas and Florida and Tennessee. Because as much as you can love New York, and if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. But as much of all of that is in play, you still want to look out for your family. You want to look out for what's right. And it takes a special type of person with a particular type of grit. Like President Trump, for example, right? Look at President Trump. You tell me, you find me somebody with more grit that's done more for America in their time in public service than El Trompito, than Aldous Magnus, the 45th and 47th president of these United States, right? A gritty New Yorker. And gritty New Yorkers, they're all over. Rudy Giuliani, gritty New Yorker. Sean Hannity, right? One of the biggest in the radio game. Gritty New Yorker. There's a lot of them out there. And there's a couple that are duking it out to become mayor of the city of New York. Now, President Trump made a comment last week in response to a reporter. Somebody from the fake news media asked him a question about people dropping out. Does he want people to drop out of the race? And I addressed this a little bit on Friday, but I wanted to get into it a little bit here, and I want to play that clip for you. Listen to President Trump on Friday.
Are you urging or encouraging any candidates in the New York City mayor's race to drop out to clear the field?
No, I don't like to see a communist become mayor, I will tell you that. And I don't think you can win unless you have one-on-one, because somehow he's gotten a little bit of a lead. I have no idea how that happened, but I'd prefer not to have a communist mayor of New York City. And, you know, that's what he is based on his policy, if you look at his statements in the past. So I would like to see two people drop out and have it be one-on-one. And I think that's a race that could be won.
So President Trump saying he doesn't know how this happened. And you know what? To his credit, President Trump is out there winning the battle on tariffs trying to end wars all over the world, doing an amazing job for the American people. Kudos to El Trompito. But I can tell you how something like this happens because I'm plugged in on the ground over here. It happens when you take a very, very bad mayor, Eric Adams, a very incompetent, a very untalented individual who's done a very bad job as mayor and allowed bad things to happen to New York City, like allowing New York City to become the #1 recruitment center for Tren de Aragua, something that's keeping El Trompito very, very busy right now. Well, Eric Adams, that happened on his watch when you turned all these hotels into migrant facilities and then gave out these no-bid contracts to your friends. That's Eric Adams, the guy who's currently destroying New York, who's made no improvement over Comrade Bill de Blasio. But I'll tell you, when you get a guy like a communist, Zoran Mamdani, and President Trump is 100% right on that, when you get this guy Mamdani running, and you get two of the weakest people you could think, the weakest people, to come and run against him, right? This guy's coming in with that AOC energy, that Bernie Sanders energy, that stimulates young people. And who do you have to counter that? You bring in a failed mayor who's had 2 police chiefs, one quit because she couldn't do her job, and the other one was indicted. This is the guy that we're going to, Eric Adams? Come on. I mean, this guy's polling at 8% and has been the whole time. Then you bring in, and I say you, being the Democrats bring in Andrew Cuomo, the disgraced mayor who was, the disgraced governor, a guy that resigned in disgrace. Any politician would never walk away from anything. This guy walks away from his office because why? He was catching heat left and right for horrible decisions he made about COVID, and that made him unpopular, and mainly what he got in trouble for, what he was, getting beat up in the media for, sexual harassment charges. Now, my theory has always been the same. Everybody knows when you go into government, you don't really touch people, right? Maybe a hello, a goodbye. If it's on camera, you're okay. But you don't become a warm, listen, I'm Puerto Rican. We can break out into dance to say hello to people. But guess what? If I were an elected official, I know I wouldn't do that. Why? Because when I was working in the administration of Governor Christie in New Jersey, the first thing that the ethics department told us was, you cannot accept a cup of coffee if it comes from Starbucks. They don't have cups of coffee for less than $5. In fact, anything that's valued at higher than $5 was an ethics violation in New Jersey. So they said, if it's a small cup of coffee at that time from Dunkin' Donuts, then you can have that. But don't have it if it's not from Dunkin' because it likely costs more than $5. That's how specific they were. And that was just on the gifts part. Trust and believe, you weren't allowed to touch people. No hello, goodbye, none of that. Put your hand on their shoulder while you're talking to them because I'm an ethnic and I'm warm. Yeah, I'm an ethnic and I'm warm too. But that's how you got to play this game. So you're not going to tell me that a guy who served as governor doesn't know better. So when you take an incredibly flawed candidate in Andrew Cuomo, who could not beat Mamdani in a primary, a governor coming from political royalty, his father's Mario Cuomo. New Yorkers know this name. And then you take another failed politician, Eric Adams, and you put both of these guys against this guy Mamdani, who's handsome and witty and doesn't have much of a background. It's no wonder the guy's doing well. There was nobody to stop him. There was no antithesis to his communism. Andrew Cuomo, Mr. Cashless Bail himself, he signed it into law. He bragged about defunding the police to the tune of $1 billion at the state level. How on earth do you think this guy is going to battle a guy who wants to defund the police even more? Or Eric Adams, who's had 2 police commissioners have to leave. One because of an indictment. All 3 are a recipe for crime. So again, I say to you, now you have one clear standout person. The guy with the red hat. The guy with the red hat who's been known for being out in these streets and being tough. Well, the guy with the red hat has some support from another gritty New Yorker, a guy named Scott Lebedo. Now, people on social media have seen Scott. Scott is a outspoken Staten Islander, Staten Island, New York, who tells it like it is. And he recently made an appeal, not only to the president, but I would say to everyone that's watching this race, and a declaration of who he thinks is going to win. Listen to this.
Everybody knows I do a lot for people. People ask me for favors and this and charity and donations and paintings and this and I do as much as I can. That's what I was brought up to do. But I don't ask for favors in return. I rarely do that. I don't do things for that. I do them because I love it. But every once in a blue moon, I ask somebody for a little favor. And that's somebody I'd like to ask a favor for is President Donald Trump. I'm sure you're not going to see this because I'm small potatoes over here. But I did spend a lot of blood, spilt a lot of blood, spent a lot of money, a lot of energy, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears for 12 years, every fucking minute of the day, defending you, getting you on that pedestal to become the president, the greatest president that you are. And I don't want anything from you. What I'm getting from you is what you're doing. You're doing everything you promised that we wanted you to do. So God bless you. But there's one favor I need from you, boss. At least consider it. I know you're here. Consider this. You're like me. You don't like when people tell you what to do. I'm asking you to step away from this race here in New York City. We got enough people stirring the pot that don't know what the they're talking about. This race is for Curtis Sliwa to win. It's a fact. It's going to happen. Curtis Sliwa's going to wipe the floor up with this fucking jihadi little communist. It's going to be the Giuliani effect. You see, that's exactly what happened 25 years ago. This city was in a shit, and every Democrat, little independent, the majority of them said, this, we can't lose our city. We're going to reluctantly vote for Giuliani, and the city blossomed. And that's what's going to happen this time around, boss. But you need to step back. Don't get behind Cuomo. That piece of shit caused the shit in this city. He's one of the creators of this whole fucking scenario we're dealing with. Step back from him, boss. That's a black eye you're gonna have if you get behind this guy and he loses, because he's gonna. Curtis Sliwa is the man for this job. And I, along with many of us who love you, sir, are gonna do whatever it takes to stand our ground and put our foot down and make sure that Curtis Sliwa is the last man standing come November. Respectfully.
Well, Scott Lebedo is a true patriot, as is Sliwa and so many others mentioned here, of course, the president among them. And this is a message that I think hits home. And I hope someone's hearing the message, because I agree with what Scott's saying. This is for Curtis Sliwa to win. Hands down, these guys are a bunch of losers. A bunch of losers. Everywhere I spent this weekend, in Queens and in Brooklyn. I was in Brownsville, Brooklyn. I didn't see a white person the whole time I was there, except for Curtis Sliwa. And I bring that up not because of any racial issue, just to say Brownsville, Brooklyn's a very, very ethnic area. And guess what? Walking around the street with Curtis Sliwa, people flocking to him. This is our guy. This is our mayor. We've known him for years. People want to vote for Curtis. People want the city to be safe. And people want to get away from the career politicians. So I agree that Curtis Sliwa is the man for the job, and I think Scott Lebedo is 100% correct when he says that there's a lot of New Yorkers like me that are in Jersey and others that are still there that are going to do everything they can to help the guy get across the finish line. And I hope that another former New Yorker, El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th and 47th president of these United States, is going to be right there with us. I'll be right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right? But right. You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
China's been conducting asymmetric warfare against the United States for well over a quarter century. And somebody might say, okay, wait, that's a lot of fancy words. What does that mean? And what it means is they are conducting all kinds of non-military warfare against us. And they're doing this in all kinds of ways. We're going to give you just two examples. And if you want to do the research, I'm sure you can find 20 more. But two examples that we've talked about at great length this year. One, there was the Microsoft hack that came from China, right? They were hacking into government offices and private corporations. This is a huge issue. But actually, I said I'm going to give you two. I'm going to give you a third. They've been trying to hack all of the utility companies. Every day, these companies get hit with thousands and thousands of attacks, all coming from China, trying to be able to control our grid.
So as you can see, China is no stranger to using cyber warfare to come at us. And the latest is how things are being stolen, right? People are having their data stolen left and right. And obviously this feeds into a larger system of how the Chinese and others, right? The Iranians are also participate in this type of activity, are trying to wage what they call unrestricted warfare, or what many call death by 1,000 cuts, on the United States or anybody else that they claim is a adversary, air quotes, which is really their enemies. And I want to get to the bottom of this and the impact that this is having, because people want to know. I mean, I think we're becoming all too accustomed to getting an alert from somebody on our phone saying your data may have been compromised, change this or change that, or this was breached. And that's it. That's all we hear. We don't know where it goes from there. So I want to bring in Eric Cole. We've had him on in the past. He's CEO of Secure Anchor, former CIA cybersecurity officer, and he's with us now. Dr. Eric Cole, welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. So talk to us a little bit about what's going on with these Chinese cyber attackers and what's going on with the stolen data.
You always knew the Chinese were hacking us as hacking the United States, but what came out in this latest breach, we call it Salt Typhoon, is that almost everybody's information and data has been compromised. What the Chinese have done is they've gone after the telecommunication companies, accessing all of your data, your information, your social security number. And you might say, but I don't have a lot of money, or I don't have this or that. But what they're trying to do is steal your identity so they can open up credit cards, commit fraud, and steal information from you to be able to fund their future cyber operations.
Wow. Now, does this have anything to do with the unending amount of texts that I get trying to get information from me, or weird phone calls where people are trying to talk and then nobody is there? Or is that separate?
It's just the beginning. It's just the beginning of it. And yeah, the thing we have to remember is the Chinese love technology. The Chinese love artificial intelligence, or AI. And they are using these AI bots to now customize and create all these messages. So imagine before a human would have to look up people's phone numbers and send you messages. Now with AI, they could find your messages, find information about family members. So imagine now you could get a message from your husband or wife or son or daughter or parent or grandparent or aunt or uncle saying they need money or they've been arrested, and all of a sudden these attacks can look real and be customized because they know your information and know the information about the people you communicate with.
That's scary. And I've gotten a few from people saying, Dad, I need this or I need that, and it's not my kid's number. I double check with them and I realize it's a fake, phony, fraud scam, so might be the red Chinese. Eric Cole, stick with us. We're going to come right back and continue this discussion on Chinese cyber attackers stealing data from almost every American, and we're going to do that straight ahead. Keep it locked right here. It's Rich Valdes coming back with Dr. Eric Cole.
Look at Rich Valdes. He's now a radio host, and he's a great radio host.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
In 2018, Chinese researchers no longer traveled to compete in international hacking competitions. Anyone who wanted to do so had to get special permission from the Chinese government.
The travel and competition restrictions placed on Chinese hackers were all about building what Jamie calls a cyber army.
China really began in earnest to invest in the cyber population in its country. It invested in the tech, it invested in the talent, and it became a very concerted focus for the regime. And you are just seeing a whole of house approach, because in the wars to come, the cyber army in China is going to be a very significant part of its arsenal.
It's a formidable arsenal that China could deploy as tensions between Washington and Beijing continue to ratchet up on everything from trade to rare earths to national security.
It could be something that the Chinese government could leverage. Everyone knows that they have this capability to play with the water supply in America. Would they do that now because of the tariffs?
That's Jamie Tarabay on Bloomberg Podcast. And again, it raises the issue of what is going on with China. China, again, using hacking competitions to grow their cyber army. This has become sport for them. I don't know that we have such sport in the United States. If we do, I'm not aware of it. But our guest is going to bring us up to speed. Dr. Eric Cole is CEO of Secure Anchor. He's a former CIA cybersecurity officer, as well as having a background that spans multiple areas in industry and government, using AI as a tracking system for counterterrorism, designing a neural network that helped capture a terrorist, receiving awards from multiple organizations. He has experience with artificial intelligence at McAfee and many other accolades. Dr. Eric Cole, welcome back. Do we have such competitions for cyber hackers here in the United States?
Yes, we do. Most colleges and universities have competitions where they try to train students on how to get better. But here's the difference. Most of the students in our cybersecurity programs are from China. If you look at the top universities...
So we're training the enemy.
Exactly. They come over here on visas, they get trained, and they go back to their home country. So it's crazy. We can't find enough cybersecurity people because we're training all of our foreign adversaries on our homeland.
That's insane. And
Yeah,
again, it makes a lot of sense why President Trump's doing a lot of what he's doing to kind of get more Americans in the roles that are critical to so much of our infrastructure. But this is, to me, it seems like China's winning in China and China's winning here in the United States on the hacking front. What's your recommendation as, an expert in this field on deterring that from a technological perspective?
The biggest thing is to recognize that the probability that your information is compromised is very, very high because you've used it. And unfortunately, even if you don't use it, other places have it and have access to it. So the first thing you want to do, and this is blows my mind, but in the United States, everybody's credit is open by default, which means somebody can open up credit card lines, lines of credit or others. You want to go in. It takes about 5 minutes. You can register online or call them and freeze your credit. The only time you need to open up your credit is if you're opening up a new account, a house, or a car, which is not that often, and that's done transparent for you. So you want to lock your credit so people can't steal your information and use it to open up false accounts in your name.
Wow. So you're saying to call the credit bureau? Is that how one would go about that, or get one of those services that kind of monitors, or both?
Either or. If you have time, you could call. If you want to spend $50, you can use one of those credit monitoring services to do it for you.
Yeah, it's probably some good advice. Now, what do you think is the next step? If the majority of these students are here on Chinese visas and the Chinese are coming after us trying to take our lunch, what's step two?
Step two is basically they now utilize this information to start targeting and coming after America. The reality is they're in our infrastructure. I know on that post they talked about, impacting the water or the utility companies, and that's not the concern because the reality is they're in our critical infrastructure, but we're in theirs. It's like the Cold War nuclear weapons with Russia, where if either side launched an attack, it would be mutual self-destruction. So they don't want to take down the U.S. The U.S. needs to be healthy. China wants to steal from us. They want to steal your data, your information, your credit, target you, your kids, your family, and your members. So you want to be so careful of what you post online. And I know everybody loves passwords, but we have to move to two-factor authentication. I know it's annoying to get a code every time you access it, but I tell people, you know what's really annoying? Having your bank account drained, having your life savings taken from you. So we got to start taking action. Unfortunately, the United States is one of the few countries in the world that does not have a federal law on data privacy. So we need to start protecting our data, two-factor authentication, don't click on links, and use apps instead of websites.
Ah, interesting. Apps are safer than websites. That's good. And I know a couple of years ago, or like a year ago, I did an interview with somebody who was saying there's a bunch of counterfeit apps on there trying to get your information. So you got to be careful that you get the official app as well.
Yeah, and stay away. I'm from New York, so we use the F word all the time. But in this show, we're going to use a different F word. It's called free. Free is not free.
Right.
When you download these free apps, they access your data, your location, your information. One of the number one apps on the App Store is a flashlight. It's made in China, and when you install it on your device, it automatically tracks your location. Let me ask you a question. Why would a flashlight need to track your location? It doesn't. But now the Chinese are basically monitoring everybody's device, where they go, what they do, where they eat, where they live, and they can track and monitor and control what we see and think.
I tell you, I just recently turned off my location on a number of apps, my microphone and camera.
Smart move.
Because I didn't realize there were so many apps that turn it on, like Gmail, for example. I don't really use my microphone on Gmail, but it was on. And I thought, that's weird.
Yeah, we don't even and people are like, well, isn't that illegal? Unfortunately, it's not. When you install these apps, you always have to click accept. Nobody reads any of those things. We're accepting all these information. They're called user license agreements. There's the fine print that nobody reads, and basically big tech is setting you up for failure because they're letting you monitor it. The good news is there's a lot of security. The bad news is it's not turned on by default. So go into any social media, any banking app, go into settings security, and just check every single security box to make sure you're protected.
Crazy stuff. Dr. Eric Cole, for people who are interested in keeping up to speed with all of your work, where do they find you? Where do they go?
Either DRERICCOLE, drericcole.org on my website, or you can go to onlinedanger.com. That's I give free books, so if anybody wants a free book, you can sign up for that. You just have to pay for shipping. I'll ship your book out, sign it for you, and you can also follow me on social media on Dr. Eric Cole.
Outstanding. Dr. Eric Cole, I want to thank you for being here. We appreciate it. We'll check back in again soon. God bless.
Sounds good. Thanks.
You bet. Amigos, your calls, your thoughts, your reactions are coming up right now. We've got calls from Idaho, Connecticut, Delaware, and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America. You sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S.
All right, as we do every hour, we are checking in with you all, we the people, my amigos, my familia all across America on our late night national town hall conversation. And we get to do that because it's a time-honored tradition here on this program. Started by the late, great Larry King that you heard, of course, continued by the legend himself, Jim Bohannon. And you and I get to make radio magic live and national with your calls as you weigh in on the issues of the evening. So I want to go to Karen. Karen's calling us from Milford, Delaware, WDEL. Karen, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdes.
Good evening, sir. I wanted to bring something to the attention that I don't think most people are aware of, is that a lot of the federal district judges are foreign-born and hold a nationality in a different country, and they became judges without any kind of a background.
You're saying like a dual citizenship, like people that were maybe born in Italy and maintain an Italian citizenship, or people that I know I have some Irish family through in-laws that are born in Ireland and have dual citizenship once they became citizens here in the United States, that type of thing?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. But what's really concerning is that they don't have any judicial training before they even got the position, not even as a traffic court judge.
Well, I'm not familiar with non-lawyers becoming judges, but that's something we could look into. I know that President Trump tried to make a law professor once, Harriet Mier, right? I think that was President Bush, excuse me, years ago, Harriet Mier, who had no experience as a judge, and that didn't go over very well. Then President Obama did it with Elena Kagan, and it went over just fine. He was able to get it. So, yeah, I understand the concern when somebody's saying, hey, we're going to put somebody on a court, and of course, the higher the court, the higher level the court, the more people expect people to have experience. And I get that. I also get the concern around people that have an allegiance to a country other than the one that we suspect that they're serving in, right? And I get that. I don't think there's any laws against it. And this is where Congress comes in, right? And we the people, where we can say, hey, look, it's time to put our money where our mouth is and reach out to our congressman, maybe send them a check and say, hey, look, this is something that's really bothering me. And I think that, we need to look into it. And again, I think it's a legitimate concern. I don't think it's one that's, I don't know of any cases, that are saying, this is a problem. But at the same time, I also believe we shouldn't always wait for something to become a problem before we try to fix it. So interesting point. Thank you for the call, Karen in Milford, Delaware, WDEL. Say hello to Joe Biden if you see him around the way. I know he's spending a lot of time in Delaware lately. And we continue with our calls all across America. Let's go to Ed. Ed is calling us from North Platte, Nebraska, KODY. Ed, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdes.
Thank you, Rich, for taking my call.
Yes,
our good friend Rush Limbaugh warned us about these people years ago. He said they're Marxist. They cannot be compromised with. They must be defeated. They are working diligently to destabilize our country. And when they get enough anarchy, then people will clamor for order and we'll give up our freedoms and our liberties so we can have order. These people have a very decided agenda, and they know what they're doing. They know very well what they're doing. They are not stupid.
I don't think they're stupid either. Listen, I don't think Bernie Sanders is somebody I would say is stupid. And by the way, Bernie Sanders was in Brooklyn, New York, and in Queens, New York, just like I was this weekend. It's funny. I was with New York City Councilwoman Vicky Palladino and New York City mayoral candidate Curtis Sliwa in Brooklyn. And Bernie Sanders and AOC were with Zoran Mamdani. And they were here, rallying up the troops, having a Stop the Oligarchy rally. And you're right. These people are not stupid. They might have stupid ideas and believe in things that you and I might, categorize as stupid. But they're not stupid people. They're making a lot of money. And they're fooling a lot of people. And they have an agenda. And you're right. If you've read the Communist Manifesto, which I think everybody should, you'll have a better understanding of how these Marxists operate. You'll have a better understanding of what they're doing to subvert our constitutional system and to change the fabric of the America we're intended to have. And in many ways, they've already changed much of the fabric. It doesn't mean it's an unrecognizable or, permanently destroyed country. But it does mean that we've seen a lot of change. And if we want to prevent change in the wrong direction or the erosion of certain constitutional truths or guarantees that I think should never have changed, including how the United States Senate is made up. We need to do more. We need to be informed patriots like President Reagan called us to be, so that we can do what we have to do. And Ed, you sound like you're an informed patriot. You sound like you keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on. And it's up to Americans like you, who don't take the time to read the books, who don't take the time to watch the television shows, who don't take the time to listen to the radio programs or the podcasts. It's up to you in your daily life, in your daily walk, to be an evangelist for this country, an evangelist for the truth. And you and every other person listening, that's kind of what we do here every day. So thank you for doing what you do, brother. Godspeed to you, and I appreciate it. Amigos, the rest of your calls and more coming up. Florida, Connecticut, Idaho. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, we continue our phone calls with you, we the people all across America. Our phone number is 833-482-5337, and I want to check in with Wayne calling us from Daytona Beach, Florida, WNDB. Wayne, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdes.
Oh, God bless you, man, for your show, bro, and everything that you're putting out there, man. A long-time listener, first-time caller. And,
welcome.
And thank you, man. God bless you, bro. The Lord Jesus, man, he is my Lord and Savior, and I love him to death. But beyond that, man, I don't recognize the country I live in anymore. I'm 57 years old. I moved to Florida about close to 30 years ago, here in Daytona Beach. I see it in right here, and I heard you talking about all the senseless murders and stuff going around, and I watch a platform called Brighteon. Have you ever heard of it?
I'm not sure. I may have.
Brighteon.com. It's not monetized, so there's a lot of stuff on there. And I got a lot of good education, about, biblical history, just a lot of theology out of it, just a lot of education. Of course, there's bad and good on all platforms. You just got to sift through it. You understand what I'm saying?
Of course.
But, man, I haven't looked at it in a while. And I usually watch Rumble or, just if I want to get some truth or, Brighteon's been a favorite of mine for a good, better 6-7 years now. And I saw this video last night that it disturbed me greatly. And I've seen a lot of videos over the years, and it's just graphic. And it was a state patrol officer basically getting murdered on the side of the road on Highway 10 in New Mexico. It was posted 5 days ago, about a 10-minute video. It's not fake. I watched it. Nice cop. It wasn't like a Gestapo bonehead like some cops could be. He pulled him over for dark window tint. It was a temp tag on a white Chevy truck. And I was talking to the guy. He knocked on the door. Can you roll the window? He's cool. He's talking with the guy. He introduced himself, told him his name. And just wondering your name. He had a dark tint. Just make sure everything's cool. The guy was like, very cooperative, sir. He goes, oh, okay, I see you at your arm. Can you put the weapon away for my safety, or if I can secure it for my safety? He's like, yeah, no problem. So the cop started walking. He was on the passenger side. It was on a highway, Highway 10. So he walked around back to the passenger side. So the driver got out of the other side of the vehicle, and the cop met him about right there at the bed of the truck. It was a bullpup automatic rifle, man. Not automatic, but a bullpup. Short.
We're going to run out of time.
Shot him in the face. The guy's
my gosh. Let me tell you, this is why cops have to be careful, and you can't take any chances. Wayne, thanks for the call. Godspeed to that officer and everybody in uniform. Folks, it's Rich Valdes coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdes, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdes.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo, happy to be here with you this Monday night, 7 minutes past the top of the hour. We're back for another hour. Here's the phone number if you want to join us in our late-night national town hall conversation, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDES. And our communist sympathizing fellow Americans, all out crazy, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, and her communist sympathizing grandpa, el abuelito himself, Bernie Sanders, Bernard Sanders. He was in Brooklyn, then in Queens. They were out here to support their latest buddy, Zoran Mamdani, a partner in crime over here, in his run for mayor of the city of New York. And Bernie Sanders put something out there, and I thought the answer to this was obvious, but listen to the question. Check this out.
You have the President of the United States working to make it harder for him to get elected. So what are these people, these oligarchs, afraid of? Seems to be a nice guy. Dresses very nice, beautiful smile. Unlike me, he's a pleasant guy. What the hell are they afraid of? And what they are afraid of, brothers and sisters, is not only the question of bringing justice to New York City. You know what they're afraid of? They're afraid of Mr. Mamdani becoming an example to what can happen all over this country.
No, Senator Sanders, we're afraid of what we've seen communism actually do, right? This ruse of socialism, or what you like to call democratic socialism, is what the great one Mark Levin has called American Marxism, and he's quite aptly pointed out. This is the introduction of communism for America. And what people are afraid of is what we've seen socialism do in the past. Mass killings, the repression of people for political reasons, terrorizing people, the persecution of minorities, like the minorities that don't agree with the dictator, the suppression of your freedom. We've seen famine. You see it right now in Cuba. There's a lack of food in Cuba. There's a lack of food. There were kids eating dogs. I didn't report that. Jorge Ramos, who's a big left-wing guy from Univision, he reported that when he went to Venezuela. Children were eating out of garbage cans and people were catching dogs in the streets to eat them. When was the last time you heard about a cure for cancer, a cure for anything, some major technological innovation coming out of a communist country? I'll wait. You haven't heard it. What we're afraid of is the shortages and insufficiency, bread lines, people having to wait online to eat, one-party rule. A lack of democracy, if you will. Nobody's elections are legit in these communist countries. And ultimately, the only capitalism you see is that which is pushed by the state. Exactly what you see in Russia, or what you saw in the USSR, what you still see in Cuba, what you see with the petroleum exports, and now seemingly the drug exports in Venezuela. State capitalism. Now we're going to see it with bodegas, right? City-owned bodegas in New York City. That's what we're afraid of. We're afraid of all of the horror shows and horror stories that have come about, from Pol Pot to Mao to every other last famous Marxist. So we're not afraid of Mr. Mamdani and a good-looking guy and a nice smile, like you said. We're afraid of the death and destruction that comes with communism, sir. Absolute insanity, the way they look at these things. Now, on the flip side, you've got Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa, Polish-Italian guy, from New York City, from Brooklyn, Canarsie, Brooklyn. He says he's not getting out of the race, despite whomever's pressuring him to get out of the race. He's raised now $3.4 million, doing better than Mamdani in the previous campaign finance report. This is the guy with the red hat, right? I like to say de la gorrita roja in Spanish. The red beret wearing Guardian Angels founder. This is a piece in the New York Post, by the way, that I'm going to give you a couple of facts from. Sliwa says it's an obligation to his down-ballot Republicans, the running mates, that he has to stay in the race because he's been pushing hard and people recognize him. This is his second run at mayor, only his second time running for mayor. And it's an obligation to other Republican candidates that are running down the ballot. And that's echoed by former 3-term Republican Governor George Pataki, who's a major supporter of Curtis Sliwa, as was former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who supported him big in this last election when he was still living in New York. There's a reason that a lot of people are supporting Curtis. There's always a Republican that runs for the mayor of New York City, and it never gets this much attention. There's never this much gravitas. The reason that we're seeing this right now is because we actually have a chance. Because unlike what Senator Sanders said, New Yorkers are afraid of communism. They are afraid of this man who is a terrorist sympathizer, who is soft on Islamism, right? These radical Islamists that are willing to kill in the name of their radicalized vision for their religion. This is not something that goes over well in New York City. It just isn't. This is a city that still remembers a wound that's 20-something years old on 9/11. A city that doesn't like the crime that it's experiencing and enjoyed the crime-free years of Rudy Giuliani and a little bit of Mayor Bloomberg taking that over from Mayor Giuliani. So this Democrat socialist, Zoran Mamdani, who claims that he's not a communist but a Democrat socialist, which again I say, where's the difference, right? That's like a pedophile saying, I'm not a pedophile, I'm a minor attracted person. Try selling that to most men on the street. I think, and when I say man on the street, I'm talking about like interviews, people walking up and down any main street in America. They're going to see it as a distinction without a difference. This prospect, I hear the rumor mill telling me that there are multiple PACs, 4 or 5 political action committees that are coming to New York, funded in large part by people that are big business people in New York, because they know this man is going to cost them business. You've got states like Florida that are opening their arms saying, hey, listen, if things don't go good in New York, come over here. Everybody's looking to get a piece of this New York pie because they know that it's about to end. Zoran Mamdani will be the final nail in the coffin of New York. The death of New York was started, in my opinion, by Andrew Cuomo. You got Comrade Bill de Blasio digging the hole for that coffin. You've got Cuomo with the no cash bail law that he signed in effect in 2020, starting this process. Eric Adams is there, lowering the casket right into the city, one defunct police commissioner at a time. Now the latest police commissioner is out there cheerleading all day long. By the way, no crime here. We're safe as can be. When everybody knows different, when we've seen a woman get set on fire, when we've seen shootouts in Times Square in broad daylight, when we've seen people on vacation that happen to be off-duty Border Patrol getting shot in the face, shot in the neck as they get stuck up by thieves on mopeds, illegal mopeds all over the place. Great job, Eric Adams. Great job. Eric Adams is a disgrace to his office. He's a disgrace to New York City. He has no business in public life. Andrew Cuomo is a disgraced former governor. Has no business in public life. Mamdani is a disgrace in terms of his political leanings. In my opinion, he shouldn't be anywhere involved in politics. But guess what? Take the chance. Roll the dice. And people want to say something about the guy with the red hat? What's the worst thing he's done? Toot his own horn a little bit? Be a shameless self-promoter. The guy took 5 shots in his abdomen because he took on the mob. You're going to tell me that this guy is not the real deal, that this guy doesn't love this city? New York City's lucky that Curtis Lee was running for mayor. And New York City will be lucky to have him. Anyway, folks, don't listen to Bernie Sanders when he says, what are they afraid of? We're afraid of what happens if this guy wins. Nobody's afraid of you people. I'll be right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
For generations, Cuban families have entered the United States as political refugees, fleeing a communist dictatorship. But now, under President Trump's immigration crackdown, many have lost the status that allowed them to come to the United States and are being forced to go back to the island in shackles. CNN was the first international TV network allowed to see how deportees are being processed in Cuba. CNN's Patrick Obman has this exclusive report.
The ICE deportation flight lands with 161 Cuban deportees, the largest number ever aboard a single plane. Officials here tell me all returned to their homeland in shackles. For decades, Cubans arriving in the U.S. were considered refugees fleeing communism and received preferential immigration status. But under President Trump's second term, their political fortunes have shifted radically. Potentially tens of thousands now face the threat of deportation.
So I want to talk about this because, of course, we're talking about communism. We're talking about so much of what's happening in America. And who better? You've heard me say a bunch of times on this program that people that come from countries that have suffered communism firsthand, they can smell this stuff coming a mile away. They're very sensitive to authoritarianism. They're very sensitive to communistic leanings because they've seen it. And they could see that stuff coming a block away. So I want to bring in a guest, Humberto Cancio. He's a Cuban immigrant. He wrote a book with his son. And this is a very, very important book and a very important topic. Now, Humberto was born in Cuba in 1953, came to the United States at the age of 6. At 12, he moved to Spain, where he attended school there for 6 years in Madrid, came back to the U.S., attended Duke University, got a BA, and then a JD. He's been practicing law for 40 years in Miami, and he's with us tonight. Humberto, welcome, sir.
How are you?
Doing great, thank you. And
thank you for having me on the program, Rich. I appreciate it very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. And I think it's always important to give people a perspective that they, otherwise may not have had. And I know for me, in my life, I grew up around a lot of my family's from Puerto Rico, but I've grown up around a lot of Cubans, and later on in life, made good acquaintances with some Venezuelans. And when you hear some of these stories, it's really inspiring. To see that there's so many patriotic now Americans, but B, that we kind of have a whole watchdog community out there of guys like you that could see this stuff coming down the block. They know what it looks like, they know what it smells like, and they call it out when they see it. So I'm glad that you wrote this book. And tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, the book takes place in Miami in the 1980s, and what people don't realize is that Miami was everything that the United States is now was in the 1980s. It had a large influx of people from Central America and Cuba. Greater Miami had 3 million people at the time. And in 60 days, there was an influx of 125,000 Cubans in the Mariel boat lift. They were surprisingly vetted, even though it was Jimmy Carter. He actually stopped the the people at the islands in Key West and so forth, and they were vetted. And the people that had family here, well, they were let into the community, but others were sent to a camp in Arkansas, and still others were sent to a penitentiary in Indiana. So there was vetting, nothing compared to what happened now with the 15 million. But when you think about it, 125,000 is more or less the same percentage as 15 million is to 350,000. So this little area of South Florida already went through that. It went through all the drugs, as everybody knows, in the 80s. And so all the problems that the United States has today, South Florida went through them in the 1980s. And so we thought this was a great time period for us to write the book. And what the book is about is a young lawyer who is of mixed ancestry. That is, his mother is Spanish. His father is a first-generation American from Irish and English descent. And he goes to practice law. He starts at the prosecutor's office, has a difference with them, a difference of honor. And then he leaves, and he goes to work with his dad. And goes through his first year of law, and we visit 8 or 9 cases in different sectors. We definitely didn't want to write a book about murder or, that kind of thing, because everybody writes that. We wanted to get away from that. So we follow that 1 year. It's a series that will follow the first 10 years of his career. But what we love to reflect, and I tell my co-writer, my son, David, that our secret ingredient is the city of Miami in the 1980s, because it brings color to it. The clients are people that came running from oppression all over. People don't realize this, but in the 1980s, we had 4 civil wars going on in Central America where they were fighting off communism. We also had the problems in Panama with Trujillo and Noriega, who were cleaning the narco traffickers' money and as well as some of the communist guerrillas' money. We had problems in Colombia with FARC. We had problems in Peru with Sendero Luminoso. We had problems in Argentina as well as Uruguay. And a lot of those people that were able to get out came to Miami. And so it was a very strong immigration class. They all came legally, mind you.
Right,
but,
which is different, I think, from today, where you have a lot more illegal immigration. But like you pointed out, a lot of parallels and a lot of differences. So, folks, we're going to pause right here. We're coming right back with Humberto Cancio, who's a Cuban immigrant who wrote a book with his son, Gabriel Lock, Bound by Law, and it warns of the perils of socialism. And we're going to continue to talk about those perils when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
Thanks for what you do. You have so many people. You ask the questions that if a viewer had a microphone, they would ask that question, and you seem to always ask it right at the right time. So God bless you, my friend.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
We know, brother, I'm here with another Democratic socialist. Thank you, my friend. You know that something has changed when it's not enough to call us Democratic Socialists anymore. Now, we know...
That is the candidate for mayor in New York City, Zohran Mamdani, at an event this weekend with AOC and All Out Crazy herself and Bernie Sanders. And the person who you could faintly hear in the background is a conservative activist, big anti-communist from Queens, New York, a guy named David Rem. He's of Cuban descent. And he calls him out and he says, "You're a communist." And Mamdani laughs it off and says, "Oh, things are bad when they can't call us Democrats socialists." But the reality is socialism is the evil, stepbrother of communism. This is what they believe in. This is the system that they use. And this is the danger that's expressed in the book by our guest. Humberto Cancio is with us. He's a Cuban immigrant. He's co-author of the book along with his son, David. The book is called Gabriel Lock, Bound by Law. And through this fiction, they tell us about the perils of socialism in this new book series. And I think very few people appreciate, what's going on here in America, the movement that Trump is leading towards liberty and against communists here in the United States. And I'd like to get into that a little bit more as we learn more about the book and how it relates so well to clips like the one we just heard. Humberto, welcome back.
Thank you.
So talk to us about some of the parallels between the news of the day here and the current times and, of course, your book.
Well, I'm shocked, really, at the reception that these Marxists have received in New York, primarily. And I'm surprised that American people have gone for that. I'm also surprised a little bit as to the segment of the society that has gone for that, which is the well-to-do young white people. It's very interesting. That also happened, by the way, the parallel in Cuba. It was the middle class and upper middle class that put Castro in power. Just a thought. As to the book, there are two different characters who are of Cuban nationality that get away from Cuba. One that actually swims across the Guantanamo Bay. People aren't familiar with that, but young guys that were strong used to try to get to liberty by swimming across Guantanamo Bay, and at the risk of getting shot, at the risk of getting eaten by sharks, and they would try to swim to the base, and that was very common in the 60s, especially the early 60s. And in that swim, one of his partners in the try gets shot. So she then flies to Miami and tries to make a life. His parents remain in Cuba, and that's one character. The other character is Ernesto, who is caught up in a dispute between partners, and he mentions to Gabriel, his lawyer, how he had to leave Cuba and leave everything, and now that he's rebuilt his life and rebuilt his business, he has to go through a litigation and fight for his business again. So I try to bring the reader and give them the background of why the client comes to see the lawyer. And since many of them were Cuban, then you get a lot of the flavor of what happened in Cuba through the book. Miami was a wonderful place to be in the 80s, but it was also a dangerous place to be.
Humberto, you made a really interesting comment that I think is probably worthy of a follow-up, which is that it was the same kind of electorate that helped Castro to power, as we're seeing, support Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and now Zoran Mamdani. Do you think this is strategic? Do you think it's happenstance? Do you think it's part of the strategy?
Honestly, I tend to believe that the poor sectors of society know better. They can spot them. They can spot that they're lying. They can spot that their promises are false because they have a harder life. The people who live much better can't spot the lies the same way. And so they tend to believe, or as they say, drink the Kool-Aid. And for some reason, it works for them. And it's always the same demographics. It's very interesting. And they're always university people where they've been indoctrinated, like happened in Cuba. And it's very, very similar. The parallels are actually startling.
Wow. And, it makes a lot of sense. I think you pointed it out very aptly. I think we're seeing, at least, from my perspective, I'm younger. I consume a fair amount of social media.
Oh, believe me, you are.
and I look at things, and part of what I see, Humberto, is there are people for lack of a better word, I'm going to say the hood, that are calling out people like Zoran Mamdani or others, saying exactly what you said. They're too smart, they're too street smart for them to be fooled,
to get duped.
Exactly, by this rhetoric. But you got the people who maybe don't know better because they have enough. And they do well. They've been to college and they've heard all these stories. And if to use a phrase in Spanish, como que le da pena. It's almost like they have pity.
Yeah.
So they and they say,
Yeah.
sure, yeah, I'm with you guys, but there is no you guys.
Yeah, my favorite story from one of our favorite from Bernie Sanders actually is that they asked him one time some newspaper person said, Bernie, you have 3 houses. I don't know if you're familiar with this anecdote, but he said, yes, I do. And he said, well, should you give one to the poor? I mean, you believe in this? He said, well, I need one in my district, my state, and then I need one in Washington because that's where I live most of the time. And then there's, and they go, what about the house on the beach? His answer was, doesn't everybody have a house on the beach? So, if you're on the street and you listen to that, you go, oh, yeah, here's another one.
That's my boy right there. Yeah.
Right. So, and that's what makes it interesting. It makes it laughable. And when they say, we're going to have government supermarkets, well, I've seen the pictures of government supermarkets. I've talked to the people that had to go to the supermarkets in Cuba, and there's nothing on the shelves, and
right.
they have to eat by stealing. The guy who works at the supermarket steals so he can trade it for services with the guy that makes shoes, who can then trade it for services, and it's a
like
barter. It's a barter society.
Humberto, do you still keep in touch? Do you have family in Cuba now?
No.
Lucky for you. I talked to a few people that do, and the things that I hear about how there's, even in some of the best resorts in La Habana, that they don't have, it's not like going to other places in the Caribbean. I hear they run out of chicken, they run out of steak, the power goes out, even in the midst of them having generators. It's not even tourist-driven anymore like it once was. Things are really bad from what I hear.
Well, yeah. I have a lot of clients that have people in Cuba, and my wife's family has part of their family is in Cuba. And I hear it, there was a very famous time about 10 years ago where they had what they called a special period. And they said, look, it's really, really going to be tough. So you're not getting meat because, you can only get the food that's on your little list in your book. And they said, you're not getting meat, so we're going to put on TV special recipes. And they taught people how to make ground beef from banana peel. Wow. And so if this is what people want in this country, well, then we're in for a long...
Forced veganism. Crazy. Really is. Humberto, I want you to let everybody know how they can get a copy of your book.
Well, my book is actually on Amazon, and it's on Barnes & Noble. And it's on there. It's under Gabriel Lock, Bound by Law. And it's the first one in a book of 7, in a series of 7, where you're going to see the development of the lawyer. You're going to see the clients develop, and you're going to be able to not only follow the legal career and learn about the law, because we really concentrated on bringing the reader into the mind of the lawyer, into the mind of the judges, and into the system, and make them present. And then you get the feeling from the clients of what they're going through during the
kind of
cases.
the first hand. Let me just remind everybody, the book is called Gabriel Lock, Bound by Law. It's available on Amazon and other booksellers. The author, Humberto Cancio, his son David is the co-author. And brother, I want to wish you much success with the book, as you guys point out the danger of socialism in this new series, and how sadly the Democratic Party in America is supporting this communism as you continue to work through the rest of the series. And thanks for being here, brother. We'll check in with you again real soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it very much.
God bless.
Have a great night.
You too. Thank you. And amigos, we come back to you. Your thoughts, your calls. Open Phone America starts right now.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes. Call now, 833-4-VALDES. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDES. That's Valdes with an S.
You have given us the voice of hope. You give us hope, and we thank you so much for that. You make things seem brighter.
America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, welcome back. It's Rich Valdes, Valdes with an S, at Rich Valdes. And I was clearing my throat there. Clearing it again, excuse me. All right, that's the third time. It's a charm. And I want to go to the phones. We got phones ringing all over the place here. What do we got here? We got California, Connecticut, Idaho, Arizona. Let's start there. Let's go to Paul, calling us from Globe, Arizona, KRVN. Paul, go right ahead, sir.
Hey, I want to thank you, Rich, for putting that lady on last night, I believe, on feminism.
Oh, yes,
That
Dr. Guild on Friday night. Sure.
That is something I wish you would dig deeper into, because that is the most destructive movement ever to impact this country, and is at the root cause of many of our major problems in this country. What they have done to wreck marriage, wreck the school, never mind 70 million aborted babies. I mean, you talk about terrorists in history and what they've done. Lay 70 million dead babies at the feet of feminists and ask them why. Why did you promote killing all these children? Why did you promote destroying all these marriages? No fault divorce. Why did you produce so many fatherless children? And so on and so on. Why did you wreck the school system? Why did you wreck the military? I mean, you could put on a show on drilling into that movement and what it has done and what it continues to do to this country. It is the root cause of many of our major problems. And until we face that fact, it has practically become the religion of the country. I mean, even Western Europe is being destroyed by it. The only people that seem to be fighting it are the Eastern Europeans, Poland and Hungary and Slovenia. They will not buy into it. But America and Western Europe are practically destroyed by this feminist movement. Now, so I have to applaud you.
Listen, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. And you're right. There's been a lot of destruction that's come from the modern feminist movement, and the and again, that to me is an outshoot of what we were just talking about, right? We were just talking about Marxism on the move in America, people that are communist sympathizers, and we've got them all over the place, and that's part of it. It's this grievance industry, this let's divide and conquer. This is how they operate. This is how they work. And it's honestly how they win. So once we're hip to the plan, we can kind of push back. Paul in Globe, Arizona, thank you for your kind words. And yes, Dr. Guild is a wonderful guest. I'm hoping to get Dr. Phil on that same topic the next time he's available. Anyway, keep your ears open for that one. Let us continue. Let's go to San Diego, California, streaming the show. Our good friends in KSFO. John, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdes.
Hey, Rich. I was wondering if there's any way we can get those 5 congressmen that Gavin Newsom and I guess that's from Trump and the Democrat Party are trying to get rid of. They're
what do you want to do?
I actually called them on the phone. I'd like to see all 5 of them come on the show or something. You know what I mean?
Oh, you're talking about the five Congress people that he's trying to get rid of in California?
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to fly personally, but yes, I'm happy to have him on the show. But I think the bigger issue here is I just think it doesn't ultimately fly. I don't believe that the Californians are that far in lockstep with the Democrat Party, and I think it's going to serve as a litmus. If I'm wrong, and they do when it goes to the ballot, if people say sure, no, we're going to do that, then I think that California is way worse than we anticipated. It seems to me that many of the big blue states, what they called the blue wall, were not that all these people moved to the same place and thought the same way and voted the same way. But it was that you saw in Illinois and other places where they used redistricting to their favor. And lo and behold, they're magically winning election after election and determining who becomes the next president of the United States. So I think now that the cat is out of the bag and President Trump's done a great job exposing them for how they operate, when you realize that this is how it goes, kind of like the ranked choice voting thing in New York. In New York City elections, they use ranked choice voting, which is the stupidest thing ever. But again, they put it into effect. Why? To hold on to power, to give them more of an opportunity to do what they do, not because it's actually a good idea, in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm with you, brother. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the call, and happy to have those congressmen on to make their case to the California people as to why they need to be right where they are, because California people elected those Republicans, and they deserve to get that representation. Anyway, we got more calls coming up. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdes.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Me, Rich Valdes, taking your calls, open phone across America. Let's go to Rick, Kalispell, Montana, KOFI in the building. Rick, go right ahead.
Yes, good evening. How are you this evening?
Wonderful, sir. Thank you. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to tell you that I enjoy your program and I enjoy your enthusiasm, and I listen almost every night. And I'm a native, not native. I was born in Rhode Island, but I grew up in the South Bronx.
Oh, get out of here. We got a New Yorker in the building. Ended up in Kalispell, Montana. Good for you, brother. Love it when the New Yorkers are spreading that New York love all over the country. Rick, I thank you for your call, my brother. Godspeed to you. Thanks for your kind words, and thanks for your call. Let us continue. Let's go to Cumberland, Maryland, WCBC. Let's go to Carla. Carla, you're on with Rich Valdes.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Hey, I want to tell you, I'm really happy about that. Guy is going to get that bill passed about the judges.
Oh, yeah, Congressman Randy Fine.
Yes, because it's not right. It's terrible. They shouldn't get away with it. They should be held accountable.
I'm with you. If they can't get the job done, we need to hold them accountable. They need to get it right the first time around. I want to give a shout out to Joe in Bethel, Connecticut, listening on WLAD. You're right, America cannot serve God and mammon. And Paul in Boise, Idaho, KBFI in the building. I look forward to speaking with you again as the week continues. Amigos, hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdes.